Doctor, Whoo, Doctor, Whoo, Doctor, Whoo, Whoo, Whoo. The Screen Companion presents Resuscitating the Ninth Doctor, celebrating Christopher Eccleston's run of Doctor Who. So let's dive right into this, John. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Dun, 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 dun.
We've got the Ninth Doctor's ninth adventure.
Uh-oh.
The Empty Child.
Uh-oh.
The Doctor and Rose travel to 1941 London. Besides the German air raids, our star duo is also threatened by a creepy little boy wearing a gas mask, constantly asking, "Are you my mummy?" who can turn others into pseudo-zombies with merely a touch. But perhaps the biggest danger is a dashing fellow time traveler named Captain Jack, a 51st century bloke with his own angle on what's happening. John, how well do you think they set up the time and place?
Very well. It's a huge point in British history. The London Blitz, as the Doctor puts it. Tiny little island standing against the world.
Blitz, Blitz, London Blitz. Dun, 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 dun.
Is that what that song's about? Germans bombing British people trying to mind their own business?
You know, they could have gotten Weird Al to come in for this episode, done a remake.
Oh, it's such a dropped opportunity. Hindsight's 20/20, but still, you should have saw it coming.
What's your favorite scene or detail that helps set that up?
The sheer amount of, I don't want to say poorly done CG airplanes, because they're trying, and this was, almost 20 years ago, on a television budget. They had all the airplanes and everything just going wrong for the British people, with all those planes coming while Rose was hanging from the Zeppelin. Let's say blimp. Zeppelin's probably not the best word during a blitz, when the Germans are attacking.
The barrage balloon.
Yeah, there we go, that's much better.
Or as the British call it, a barrage balloon.
A barrage balloon!
But here we have the fabulous John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness. John, describe Captain Jack in this particular episode.
Ooh, he is a suave, totally not on-the-run time agent looking to sell a piece of, I think it was Chula war tech to other time agents that he has mistaken Rose for.
Yeah, he claims it's a Chula warship, but we'll find out if he's lying or not later on.
Dun dun dun.
So 2/3 into the season, do you think they should have introduced Jack sooner?
No. I think that they needed to establish the relationship between the Doctor and the Rose before they throw in this wrench into the works. Especially because of how omnisexual Jack necessarily isn't even after just Rose.
I'm trying to look at it objectively and not with the advantage of looking at it in hindsight. All his episodes have an energy to them, and Jack provides an outside perspective on the main relationship between Doctor and Rose. They can go to him for a reaction. I think this two-parter should have been brought in earlier. Maybe move Dalek, The Long Game, and Father's Day forward in the broadcast order. I'd merge Aliens of London and World War III into one story so we'll still get the Slovene Margaret in Boomtown. I want Captain Jack in at least 2 more stories. His interactions with the Ninth Doctor are so much better than with the 10th Doctor. I think because Eccleston's got that seniority over Barrowman.
Yeah, he's got a darker sense of humor to counteract Barrowman's unadulterated joy of everything.
I'm not going to use certain gay slang to describe Barrowman and Tennant's relationship, so instead I'm going to say they've got more of a Little Debbie thing going on. Rate this story from 1 being terrible to 5 being excellent, with 3 being net positive.
We give it a 4. Possibly 4.5, if that upsets people. I know half ratings upset people, so I'm going to throw in 4.5.
And what's the deciding factor for you?
This episode's written by Stephen Moffat, and he's so good at the setup. If we go into future things, we could talk about how his payoffs are usually upsetting, but his setups are always so good.
I'm going a solid 4 because of the good banter with Captain Jack, and there's a good mystery and good atmosphere. What was your favorite scene?
I'm going to give it a tie between Captain Jack and Rose in the ship, because I think that was the first time as a young 20-something growing up in farm country. It was the first time I heard that song. I think it was like Moonlight Serenade. But that whole scene of just them being witty and trying to flirt with each other, while also Rose is lost and trying to look cool at the same time. And I'm going to tie that with the doctor being faced with the child and just being so innocent about it. Everybody knows that kid is dangerous, and he's just like, hello, little boy, what's up?
Is that when he's in the house with Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that works really well. That scene between Captain Jack and Rose on his ship. Something else that's really cool about it is not only do you get them flirting, but they also sneak in a lot of exposition and stuff that's going to become important in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it sounds like the visual effects didn't wow you all that much, I'm going to say that the CGI I wasn't too impressed by either until this episode. I did like seeing the shots of Rose high above London from the balloons. I think that's because it's taking place at night. That darkness is filling in a lot of the spots where the broad daylight of, like, Aliens of London or World War III, 2005 CGI just can't do the resolution you need.
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk smack on the resolution. Like I said, it's almost 20 years old at this point. It's a TV budget.
And it helps that most of it is a matte painting.
Oh, yeah, there's not enough matte paintings as backgrounds anymore.
So in this case, I don't immediately think, well, that's good for 2005. Instead, I just think it's good CGI, full stop.
Okay.
And it helps that Rose is screaming her head off.
The parts are bigger than the sum of its whole. Maybe the other way around.
What would you say is your biggest problem with The Empty Child? And yes, you have to have one.
I have none. No. There was a lot of characters being dumb for the convenience of the plot, honestly. Rose just randomly grabs a rope and happily floats off like she's...
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins. There's something. Oh, I got this all figured out. I'm just going to grab this rope and see what happens. And all of a sudden, she's in the middle of the Blitz with the Union Jack painted all over her chest.
Leading up to that, she's trying to get to a little boy that's on a rooftop. She's calling out to him. Something's clearly wrong with him.
Yeah. She's been around. She's seen the space Nazis and the Daleks. She should know better. Something's going wrong up there. Don't just run head first into that.
Am I misremembering it? Doesn't that rope just fall down? Like it wasn't there originally, and then it kind of unfurls at her?
Yeah, it plot convenienced its way into her face, and then she just grabs it.
And she's not like, I wonder who sent this rope down. Obviously not that little boy who says nothing and just stands there.
Clearly not that creepy child, and I've been to enough alien places to underestimate this child.
This rewatch, I'm seeing a lot of British chauvinism that feels like it's retarding what the scope of a time travel show should be. Rose with that Union Jack t-shirt. Have you ever worn a full American flag shirt that wasn't on the 4th of July or Memorial Day?
No, and somewhere in the Constitution it does say that that's unpatriotic is to wear the American flag as clothing.
A lot of people are breaking that rule.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
But I never have, which makes it even more ridiculous that Rose would have that shirt.
Yeah.
Has she worn it at all up until this episode?
I don't think so. She did pack a wardrobe with her.
True, yeah, she realized she would need to change once in a while, which that's also funny. I would think a woman especially would think of that immediately after the first adventure. Whoa, whoa, I need to go back home for a sec. I need some clothes.
You can just pop back. She does liken it to backpacking across Europe, but it's still like the car could go home at any point.
Does this enter the realm of science fiction or science fantasy for you?
I'm going to stick with science fantasy for this first one because we don't know what's going on.
That's true, and there's very little explanation of what's happening beyond Captain Jack.
He's the only one who seems to know what's going on, and he doesn't seem to know what's going on.
And even then, he's not telling the whole truth. Is there a dark Ninth Doctor moment in this one?
I think the whole concept of the episode is dark. It's the London Blitz. People are dying. Everyone's dying around him, and he's just in gleeful awe of the situation.
But there aren't any bodies.
It's still a general, hey, everyone is dying.
Yeah, and you got Captain Jack hitting on some British soldier.
Yeah.
Are there any little details you'd like to point out?
Jack, the first thing he does is be a pervert. He's just like, that woman might die. I'm going to zoom in on her butt. Little character action for him that just immediately set him up. And then all the little stuff, the nanobots healing, the Doctor being observant without saying anything. So by the time the big exposition comes in the second parter, oh yeah, he did notice all of that, didn't he?
And even though Jack comes off as so charming and a bit of a horn dog, you notice in that scene on the ship with Rose, every other question is, who could make a deal? Your partner, the Doctor, can he make a deal for the Chula warship I've got out there?
Hello? Good evening. Hope we're not interrupting. Jack Harkness, I've been hearing all about you on the way over.
He knows. I had to tell him about us being time agents.
And it's a real pleasure to meet you, Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock?
What was I supposed to say? You don't have a name. Don't you ever get tired of Doctor? Doctor who?
9 centuries in, I'm coping. Where have you been? We're in the middle of a London Blitz. It's not a good time for a stroll.
Who's strolling? I went by barrage balloon. Only way to see an air raid.
Dr. Spock.
Yeah, man, I love those references.
I don't know, I forgot about them. I don't know. I feel like I could live without them, but they didn't really hurt the show either.
Well, it lends credibility to Rose being of our era. She's got to make some pop culture references every now and then.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Maybe not to the extent that John Crichton did, but I'd expect her to make a Star Trek reference by now, especially with Christopher Eccleston's ears.
Those ears and that northern accent.
I would like to point out, I really felt it here, that the sonic screwdriver bugs me. They haven't tried to explain how it works, what its limitations are. It's the plot convenience tool. What have we seen it do so far?
Maybe unlocks a door or two and then scans some stuff?
Well, I feel like in the previous episodes, we've seen it bust open a lock, so maybe melting metal, I'm not sure. Either this episode or the next one, he talks about how it can vibrate metal.
Oh, yeah, he was trying to undo the metal of the concrete or something where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next episode.
I think he also uses it as an analysis tool, doesn't he?
When he's checking out all the bodies that have the exact same wounds.
It's like, okay, good that he has some tool on him, but then I have no idea what it's about. And I would expect at least Rose to see him whip that out and go, what is that? What's it do? Can I try it? Before we go on to the next episode, John, what do you think are some rules, serious or funny, that you'd recommend the Doctor adopt when it comes to traveling with companions?
Alright, I feel like his number one rule above all else is style. Because this is the 9th time, every time he regenerates, the first thing he worries about is his outfit. And then he starts maybe thinking about, who am I as a person? First thing is, what am I going to wear? Number 2, this is just a good general travel tip. Don't drink the water. You don't know what you're going to get. Rule number 3, 5 to 6 on Thursdays is the doctor's time. Leave him alone. It's the real ones. Don't wander off. I think that's a good one, especially this episode. It came up often. Don't wander off. Don't mention the war. It's a nice little Fawlty Towers reference that works perfectly for a guy who just came from a time war. No matter how much fun it sounds, don't kill a dictator. The final rule is, time isn't money, it's wibbly wobbly.
I would really like to see the Doctor's chambers aboard the TARDIS. You can tell a lot about a person by what their bedroom looks like.
I think the closest we got to what it might look like was the TV special where the 7th regenerated into the 8th.
The Screen Companion is available on multiple platforms, including Podbean, Amazon Music Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Tell us your review, vote for what we should cover next, or let certain guests know they're your favorite via thescreencompanion@gmail.com or by posting on the Screen Companion group on Facebook. Thanks to everyone in the States and abroad for listening. Further support the host by purchasing his novel, Traversal, The Weight of Worlds, available in both digital and print formats on Amazon.com. The 5th season of The Screen Companion begins September 1st, 2024. Now, back to the show. Do we ever see Eccleston's doctor eat or drink?
No. I think the closest we get to is the next episode when he talks about bananas.
And then he's in a restaurant in Boomtown, but I don't think he ever drank or ate anything there.
He looked at a menu just as a misdirection.
He doesn't eat, drink, we never see him sleep. I don't know if that's intrinsic to the character, or if they're just like, we don't need to show him doing that. But I'd like to see him do something like that. What type of foods do you think the Doctor would like? If you were to make him something, what would you make him?
This one, I have no idea. He seems like he'd be flip-flopping between he's really picky or he's going to accept whatever you put in front of him and just pretend he loves it. I don't know. A good lasagna, I guess. See what happens.
Maybe get a little eccentric, put on a roast, and then add some weird fruit to it.
He's got to have some exotic, otherworldly fruit in the TARDIS somewhere. Is there a galley in there? Does he get a little mini fridge?
Well, pretty soon he's going to get some weird fruit with Captain Jack.
If you don't add the rim shot to that, it's just going to be sad.
I only feel comfortable saying that because I believe if John Barrowman was here, he would appreciate that.
If he had to beat you to the punch on the joke.
Yeah, he'd probably take it a little further. My rules for the Doctor and his companions. Number 1, communicators, which they finally address in Boomtown, probably because Captain Jack pointed out how stupid it was to run around without a way to contact each other in the field.
Yeah.
Like, we see Rose early on with her cell phone. I guess the Doctor can reach her, but what if she needs to reach him?
She doesn't know the TARDIS's number. He very specifically points out that this telephone isn't even attached to anything.
The phone box phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, backpacks or a satchel, something to carry stuff in. Think of traveling through space and time as you would any tourism situation. When you went to Japan recently, between you and your wife, did you walk around with only what your pockets could carry?
No, we tried to keep something on us. Usually for water or whatever.
Number 3, how about some kind of defense item? Pepper spray, a knife. Jeez.
Sonic pepper spray.
I would like to see it used that way. Because they don't establish any rules for it, just have them flash it in somebody's face and they go, "Oh, my eyes!"
It can easily work like that.
Another one I have, I think the companion, it would behoove them to bank some blood in the TARDIS. They're getting into repeatedly hazardous situations. What's the Doctor going to do if his companion loses a lot of blood and there are only aliens around?
Right? They could be friendly xenomorphs, but they're still like acid blood.
And the TARDIS isn't a reliable form of transportation, so it's not like they can just always zip back when they need to.
It's like, oh, let's pop to this hospital real quick. Oh, now we're in 1800 France.
But from the 9th episode to the 10th episode, the Doctor dances. John, what's it all about?
The gas mask plague spreads. The Doctor, Rose, and Jack face imminent danger. And once they're safe, Jack's con is exposed as the Doctor solves the riddle of the little boy who just wants his mommy.
Do you think this needed to be a two-parter?
I like it as a two-parter. I really like it as is. I'm going to say yes. Hard stamp on the yes. It needed the room to breathe.
Especially with all the details. You got the Captain Jack aspect of it. It was cool what they did with Nancy and her role to play. And if you condense that down to one episode, then you'd have to lose one of those things at least.
Something, yeah.
Since this was a two-parter, how long do you feel is appropriate for a recap going into a second half? In this case, they did an 80-second previously on.
I think that's too long. Maybe 20 seconds or 30. It really should just be the last episode. Quick, here's the basic plot, here's where the cliffhanger ended, and boom, off and running. Don't even set up anything else from any of the rest of the show.
Yeah, when they try to condense an episode to fill you in if you didn't watch it, that's an exercise in futility. I think they should just keep it to the main mystery, establish the empty child, take all of 40 seconds at the most, and then boom, go into that cliffhanger. And I love how they transition from the previously on straight into where we left off with them. You notice that?
Yes.
Rate this one from 1 to 5.
I'm going to give this the full 5. It's one of my favorite episodes. I like the sci-fi reveal of how it all worked. Future me's not going to care much for how Moffat does his payoffs, but his setups work. This payoff, I thought, was one of his best. Character moment-wise, from all the characters, it hit hard. Everyone got a happy ending.
I don't know if Moffat spread himself too thin, because he was on a roll there where he was doing Doctor Who, Sherlock.
I think before all this, I think he did the show Coupling, which is one of my favorite BBC shows.
So whether he was doing too much, or just that he's one of those writers, he's better on the ground reporting to somebody above him.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
I agree with you. This is totally a 5. There's a great range of drama and danger. The first time I saw it, I could buy that Captain Jack wasn't going to survive. And the Doctor dancing at the end was one of the best buttons on an episode of Doctor Who ever.
Mm-hmm.
So in the second parter, is this closer to science fiction?
Yes. Once the payoffs start coming and the mysteries start getting solved, it's just good, fun sci-fi.
What was your favorite scene?
The whole hospital scene, starting from when they discovered that the empty child was right behind them. The whole escape up to them trying to dance, the Doctor and Rose trying to dance, not realizing that they had been transported to Jack's ship.
Isn't that like a 10-minute segment?
Yeah.
You're cheating.
What you get when you 5-star episodes, again, is that whole... I'll stick with just the escape from the initial escape from the empty child. How about that? Including the banana scene talking about Captain Jack's sonic pistol. When the Doctor switched him. There's the scene of like, let's get out of here, don't drop the banana. Why? Because it's a good source of potassium.
Was he being serious when he recounted that story of that weapons factory, and now it was a field of bananas? Do you think that banana was actually from that field?
That's
a little silly if it really was.
I could see it actually is, but that's the joke, because I could see him going into the future after this, getting the banana, and then sneaking the banana into his own pocket into the past before he put the coat on.
Oh, don't go all Bill and Ted on me.
I was actually thinking of the tie joke from season 3 that David Tennant pulled on Freema.
Adjuman?
Yeah. I was going to say Martha Jones. I was going to say Freema Jones and then Martha Adjuman.
Do you think this means that the Doctor carries fruit all the time?
Yeah, he might. Who knows? If that's his favorite type of banana because he blew up a gun factory. Probably millions of gun factories throughout history that he could go blow up.
I love the resolution to the cliffhanger from the previous episode. All the mass zombies are approaching the Doctor, Rose, and Jack, and the Doctor yells, "Go to your room!" And all the zombies back off. It's such a simple solution, but it makes logical sense, and there's some psychology there.
It shows that the Doctor knew more about the situation than he was letting on.
Possibly, or it's just the fact that he knows the patient zero is a little boy.
But had they established the patient... Well, yeah, I guess they did establish the patient zero was the little boy.
Can you sense it?
Sense what?
Coming out of the walls. Can you feel it? Funny little human brains. How do you get around in those things?
When he's stressed, he likes to insult species.
Rose, I'm thinking.
Cuts himself shaving, does half an hour on life forms. He's cleverer then.
There are these children living rough around the bomb sites. They come out during air raids looking for food.
Mommy, please.
Suppose they were there when this thing, whatever it was, landed.
It was a med ship. It was harmless.
Yes, you keep saying harmless. Suppose one of them was affected, altered.
Altered how?
I'm here.
It's afraid. Terribly afraid and powerful. It doesn't know it yet, but it will do. It's got the power of a gun, and I just sent it to its room.
If I made you come up with a criticism, what would it be?
I was going to say how fast they got out of danger, but I'm going to go with the Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark defense of if the Doctor hadn't got involved, I think the situation still would have resolved itself, right?
No, it all started because Captain Jack brought that, what turned out to be an alien ambulance to London.
The solution is the little boy hugs his mother, what turns out to be his mother. The nanobots recognize the parent DNA and then fix humanity based on that. And as a plague, she was bound to get touched. All any of those nanobots had to do was touch her. It was just a matter of time.
I was under the impression it needed to be the empty child that needed to touch her, not just any of those zombies.
Maybe. But I feel like eventually that kid was going to touch her, and then that's your solution. As another question, was the Doctor ever in danger from this plague? Not being human, the nanobots are not going to force him into that situation.
Ooh, possibly.
So A, I don't think he needed to solve anything because it would have solved itself, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt on it had to be the child specifically. B, I don't think he was in any danger whatsoever from this plague, being not human.
But that's a lot of confidence in the Doctor's theory. I think it's easier for us, knowing what the outcome is, to go, yeah, the Doctor was 100% right in the moment. If you were Rose, would you want to bank that the Doctor is 100% right?
No, oh no.
Okay, suppose Nancy... Because it's the Doctor, I think, that really helps her deal with the loss of her child, who ends up being the empty child. So if he wasn't there to nudge her into it, maybe she would escape. And maybe it would take months for her to ever come back and touch that kid. Even if it does ultimately resolve, maybe it takes a lot longer than it needs to. Just say the Doctor needed to be there, darn it.
Okay, fine. The Doctor needed to be there. I gave it a 5. I'm not arguing that it's a bad episode. Just like Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's a good movie. They still would have opened the Ark and all been vaporized anyway.
Well, that I agree with.
Possibly in the middle of Nazi Germany, which would have solved a lot more problems than it would have caused.
Ah. Even though I like the idea of Nancy and her part in the mystery, how the show paints her as some noble figure comes off as value dissonance for me. That scene where she strong-arms the homeowner that intended on handing her over to the cops for trespassing and stealing. We're supposed to say, "Good going, Nancy." But she goes to people's houses and steals stuff while they're hiding in their bomb shelters during the raid sirens.
And makes everyone take their time being proper guests when they should be worried about getting bombed at any second.
Yeah, when they weren't invited to begin with.
It was like, oh, you wait your turn, everybody gets one, and you're in trouble, so you have to wash up all these dishes. Bombs are dropping. Maybe eat vamoose.
And they justify it with the particular homeowner in the episode. He's into some black market stuff. Or is he? Is he just gay and he's in love with the butcher?
I believe that was the actual resolution, was that he was gay in love with the butcher, and she knew it.
So she's blackmailing him.
She's blackmailing him. Yeah, it's not nobility. She's blackmailing this guy.
Even if she was feeding the street urchins, I don't agree with it to the extent that they made her seem so wholesome.
She hid the pregnancy because it's uncouth, and she's turning around and using the same faux pas. Not even faux pas. I believe homosexuality was quite illegal then in London.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's the same social bullshit that she's blackmailing him with.
It's the moral high horse that she puts herself on. That's what I don't like.
Yeah. I had a kid when I was a teenager, but you're gay. Ooh.
With how optimistic the episode gets, is there a dark Ninth Doctor moment in this one?
I would say no. When he was just this once, nobody dies. And nobody did die. Knowing what happens to Captain Jack, it's ironic that his life was ever in danger at any point. It's a dark episode, but this is one of his brighter moments.
Does it feel right that everyone should be okay at the end?
Yes. I think he's earned it.
In the greater scheme of the season, I don't like the lampshading of it, because people die left and right in the previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Doctor to point out that, hey, for once, nobody died, it's like, yeah, you know, maybe there are too many deaths on this show. The fact that the Doctor goes back for Captain Jack at the end goes to show how you have to earn it. The Doctor wasn't going to do that for Adam. Adam was forced on him by Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And while Jack annoyed the Doctor, he saw that there was good worth preserving, so I bought that he would save Jack from certain doom.
There's something there. Plus he knows, he's already a time traveler, so he knows the rules.
Before we go into the 11th episode, Boomtown, I gotta hand it to you, I thought you would have made a Doctor Strangelove reference by now.
Well, watching the episode, I did make the Doctor Strangelove reference. I was watching it with my wife, and I said it because Jack was on the bomb.
In Boomtown, we revisit the Margaret Slevine villain from the previous two-parter, as she's the lone survivor of their encounter between the Doctor and the murderous alien family. As the Doctor captures Margaret and intends to hand her over to her planet's authorities for execution, Rose reconnects with a forlorn Mickey. How do you feel about Margaret's reappearance?
She did a good job, but I don't know if it was necessarily necessary. Not to be redundant.
Not necessary, but it was a nice surprise. I'm always for continuity. Let's bring some people back. Do I need it to be her specifically? No. You notice how they stopped with all the farting?
Yeah, I think there was one fart as a callback to let you know, like, oh, it's a Slevine.
I think it was all stomach gurgles, except for the part where she was in a bathroom. So that makes it a little more appropriate to hear farting sounds.
The main crux of the scene was about the lights or something because she was taking the suit off, and they're like, what is that?
Rate this one from 1 to 5.
I give it a 3. It's not my favorite. I think the whole point of the episode is a necessary element at the end so that the season resolution doesn't come out of nowhere.
I'm going 4 because of the sharp dialogue and moral quandaries. Not just the Doctor and Margaret, and her pointing out that she's going to her execution if the Doctor goes through with it, but also Rose stringing along Mickey, using him whenever she feels like it. She doesn't come off very emotionally aware, almost like Mickey's confession, feeling so sad about her leaving him. Oi, it just came out of nowhere.
It just happened. Just randomly ditched you.
I think it shows that she really hasn't been thinking about him.
No, she doesn't. Like, why would she? She's met aliens and Charles Dickens.
And now she's traveling with Captain Jack.
She's traveling with the most handsome man in the galaxy. Mickey didn't stand a chance.
John Barrowman's got that lantern jaw, almost like he's an old-school Superman.
Yeah. He'd be good in a superhero TV show.
I see what you did there.
Ha ha!
For this episode, does it enter into the realm of science fiction or science fantasy?
With the exception of her being an alien, I don't know if it enters into either. Let's just call it science fantasy. Because the resolution is what?
Well, the whole idea of Margaret, her plan being that she's going to blow up a power plant over a rift of energy that's going to end up destroying the world and then propelling her on a surfboard. I almost want the world to blow up so I could see what that would look like.
That CG scene of her possibly still in her skin suit surfing.
How quickly is she going to reach another planet?
Space is really big. How often does she need to eat and drink?
What's your favorite scene?
I don't know why. I think it's the scene when they're eating and she's trying to murder the Doctor, and he's just so casual about the whole situation.
Because they set up in the last two-parter with the Slovene, he was aware of their species, right?
The whole scene where they're trying to outthink the one Slovene in Jackie's house. They kept naming facts about the species till he was able to oh, this is who they are. That's right.
So that's cool. However, the reveal of her defensive capabilities, I think I would have liked a show of that earlier on in this episode at least, because it really comes out of nowhere. My favorite scene is where the reporter approaches Margaret asking about the nuclear power plant that the latter is planning on melting down. The reporter points out all the deaths associated with the project. She goes, "You remember the architect?"
Oh.
And Margaret says, "It was raining. Visibility was low. My car simply couldn't stop." How about the nuclear advisor? Slipped on an icy patch. He was decapitated. It was a very icy patch.
That's such a British, last episode was I'm very cross with you. It was a very icy patch.
I want more dialogue like that.
Margaret mentioned something about going native. The scene when they're talking about blowing up Cardiff, and she's like, if those in London would even notice, ugh. Oh God, I've gone native.
What was your biggest problem with Boomtown?
I'm simply going to call it intense techno. When the Doctor announces himself in Margaret's office, she starts to run away, and they're all covering the exits. Jack, Mickey, Rose, and the Doctor. That awful techno starts, and it's supposed to be this intense chase scene, but it's gags. It's all sight gags about people falling over stuff. And ultimately, it just ends with the Doctor reversing her transport anyway.
Notice in that scene, the only one that actually takes a header is Mickey.
Yeah, he hits the custodian cart.
With how bad the music's been up to this point, I'm a little afraid to rewatch the last couple episodes, because I remember the music being really good, but it's almost like, how could that be with how bad the music's been?
Thankfully, there's not a bunch of racist jokes that we can gripe on. That seems to be what's aged the worst.
My biggest problem is calling the nuclear power plant Bad Wolf. Who in their right mind would consent to that in the government? And the fake out where the doctor recognizes that name following them on their adventures, but he ultimately dismisses it. He comes off as so stupid.
This will come up in the next episode. How does it help? I think Rose throws that across time, and it doesn't help in any way.
I'm not gonna jump ahead because I haven't watched those episodes. You haven't skipped ahead, have you?
No, I have not. I'm making random guesses because I'm a very intelligent person.
I can understand your desire to preempt it. That's definitely going to be something I'm holding my pencil to the paper to while we're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it really making much sense either, so I'm going to listen intently and hopefully they don't have that driving music drowning out the dialogue. There were a couple of moments in this episode. They can't have any of the actors whisper anything because you can't hear them over the music.
No, yeah, the music's so, like I said, intense techno. I think that's what the closed captions said when I was watching the episode.
Really bad techno.
Yeah.
What do you think is the darkest Ninth Doctor moment in Boomtown?
It's definitely how often the Doctor, when Margaret's like, they're going to kill me instantly, he's just like, this sounds like a you problem. Let's go.
And the part where she tries to say that she's changed and that the reporter from earlier, she let her live.
I felt the bloodlust rising, just as the family had told me I was going to kill her without a thought. And then I stopped. She's alive somewhere right now. She's walking around this city because I can change. I did change. I know I can't prove it.
I believe you.
And you know I'm capable of better.
It doesn't mean anything.
I spared her life.
You let one of them go, but that's nothing new. Every now and then a little victim's spared because she smiled, because he's got freckles, because they begged. And that's how you live with yourself. That's how you slaughter millions. Because once in a while, on a whim, if the wind's in the right direction, you happen to be kind.
Only a killer would know that. Is that right? From what I've seen, your funny little happy-go-lucky life leaves devastation in its wake. Always moving on, because you dare not go back. Playing with so many people's lives, you might as well be a god. And you're right, Doctor. You're absolutely right. Sometimes you let one go. Let me go.
She's right. Only a killer would know that.
You could throw those words into Dexter or Hannibal.
Easily, yeah.
So, the home stretch of Season 1, do you feel like the Doctor and Rose are a solid enough duo?
Yeah. They're taking jabs at each other, they're kvetching, they're trying to dance with each other, platonically.
So what's their relationship? I don't even get the romantic undertones, really.
No, I don't think there are. That's what I liked most about it. The lack of romantic undertones. It allows Rose or the Doctor, in the case of Captain Jack, to have another one-off romantic situation.
When Rose and Mickey are hanging out while the TARDIS is refueling, and she tells Mickey about some of the adventures she's been on that we haven't seen in the episodes, how long do you think they've been traveling together?
It's been a while. She talks about all those places she's been. Bare minimum, they're like 2 or 3 months into this.
And it also feels like they've been traveling with Captain Jack for a while.
They go out to lunch with him. He's got stories he's telling to Mick. I think some of the aspects that Rose and the Doctor already knew.
I want Eccleston to come back just to fill some of those gaps. And you could play it as maybe he gets sick in one episode and it makes him look older. And then at the end of his returning series, have him get the cure and then do some de-aging CGI and then put him back into this season.
That de-aging CGI that's starting to become commercial.
But let's do a pulse check. Are you excited for the final episodes coming up?
Yes, I am. I don't know if the preview back in the day had the Daleks in it, but the preview this time it had the Daleks in it, and that makes me excited. With no foresight of the situation, it makes me excited. I'm like, oh, the Daleks are coming back, because that was a great episode.
It was a great episode, but they're already undoing the drama of that Dalek being the last one.
Yeah.
And then once you watch this finale, you're like, well, damn, if he just hung in there, he would have seen that there are a lot of them left.
Mm-hmm.
But does it feel like it's building towards something?
Yes, it does. Only because he brought up the Bad Wolves thing.
Right, but I don't sense an overall arc beyond that. Is that really all that interesting? It's not the thrust I want. I think Captain Jack being on board is more momentum at this point.
I think it is too. I remember watching it fresh-faced as a young 20-something, and I think I was just dumber then. I had more hope.
Do you have any final words about these 3 episodes?
Boomtown is such a whiplash, because of how much I love Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. It's such a whiplash of, in hindsight, it felt like the whole point was just so resolutions to the finale didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it sounds like you weren't much of a fan of Margaret.
No offense to her.
Maybe it's because I like it boring. This felt like the Dinner with Andre episode. I understand there are plenty of people that are going to say, well, that sounds terrible. You've got a Time Lord, and he's just going to be sitting in a restaurant with an alien, and they're going to talk for a little while. But to me, it's perfect because she makes some good points about how they're not so dissimilar. You get reflection that I think Christopher Eccleston does really well. I like to see it whenever it comes up.
I mean, he's a great actor. And he's our favorite Doctor, as we've established.
How do you feel about the resolution to the Margaret story?
It was everybody wins. She gets her emotional resolution. She gets her fresh chance. Sci-fi wise, I was like, what? Came out of nowhere.
It was such a pat conclusion.
Yeah.
And if that's all it would take this whole time, it comes off like the TARDIS is only self-serving in that moment.
Yeah, right?
Why didn't it open up sooner?
We know it's got a consciousness. We meet it in one of Matt Smith's best episodes, only because it was written by Neil Gaiman. We get to meet the TARDIS as a consciousness. So it is self-aware. It knows everything. It knows all of space-time. And you're right, it was very self-serving. It was like, alright, I'm just going to help this once.
Yeah, because I'm in danger.
Yeah. I'm in danger. Ah, crap. Alright, I'm turning this lady to an egg.
Fantastic! Oh, fantastic!